with me tonight, author and activist. This is interesting because in the news we've been hearing lots, haven't we, about Jeremy Corbyn, Labour's new General Secretary, as well as emailed members on her first day in the job today to say she's determined to eradicate anti-Semitism in the party. This is Jenny Formby, who said she would be implementing in full the recommendations of an investigation carried out in 2016 into racism and anti-Semitism in Labour. Jeremy Corbyn has been criticised again today for not backing his words with deeds after he attended a Passover event last night with a left-wing Jewish group that has called for the destruction of Israel. Okay, now, you became a bit of a fan of Jeremy Corbyn during his election, and you yourself would not describe yourself, you're not a member of the Labour Party, but you are a supporter of the Labour Party. And Jeremy Corbyn, I know from seeing your Facebook messages, has been someone that you've had a lot of time for. You've gone to rallies that he's done. What do you make of all of this at the moment?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm an environmental campaigner. I don't consider myself a political activist. I don't belong to a party, as you've said, but I do campaign on human rights issues, the environment, local community issues, and for saving our NHS. I work with human rights lawyers, for example, as well on many issues. When you say I'm a fan of Jeremy Corbyn, you know, it isn't just from the election or from him becoming leader. As a campaigner, I always had great respect for Jeremy Corbyn as a campaigner on those issues too, on human rights, very extremely important. I don't believe that Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite. If I did, I would never have voted for him in the last election. But I think with the current row, it's very important to define, if we're talking about anti-Semitism, what is it? Can we define that? Today I looked at the Oxford English Dictionary, and anti-Semitism is, quote, hostility and prejudice directed against Jewish people. I think what's going on at the moment needs a certain amount of disentanglement of issues, because I grew up in the East End of London. I went to a grammar school where a third of my school friends' girls were Jewish. I've grown up with Jewish community. In the East End, we've got a very long history of standing up against anti-Semitism. Also, my agent, my father's grandmother was Jewish, and my agent has been my agent for 30 years and is one of my best friends, and she is Jewish.
And have you had a discussion as best friends about what's going on at the moment within the Labour Party? Because there's a separation here. You're right to say it. There's a separation here at the moment between Jeremy Corbyn and particular things that are being said about him, or indeed that are there in fact about things he's gone to. For example, last night to that event, he was in his own time. To be fair, it wasn't part of a duty of the Labour Party. However, there's a separation as well with an ongoing, almost accepted now, I think we're very close to that, accepted that within the Labour Party there have been areas where people have not acted properly, and as you say, as someone who works within human rights, on that basis of thinking of everyone's ability to have their beliefs and faith and everything else.
Well, I've just explained where I come from in terms of my relationship to the Jewish community and my own family. I am not an anti-Semite at all, but I have spoken out against Israeli policy, the policy of the Israeli government towards the Palestinians, and all that is very live at the moment because, of course, there was the protest on the Israel-Gaza border very recently, and the huge amount of casualties and 18 people killed. So I Julie, do think that is a strand of this.
But it is a strand of this. But as a party, as a Labour Party, you have to be very balanced, don't you, about your viewpoint. Your leader has to be very balanced. And if there is suggestions that there isn't a balance there, that at least needs to be, as rightly said by the new secretary coming in, it needs to be looked at.
And I that's what I was leading to, that I absolutely endorse that. But I do think it's important to say, Is it true that there are anti-Semites who would also call themselves critics of the Israeli government? Yes, absolutely. I think there probably are, but I would say because there is racism in every party. And what I do think is we do not have a level playing field at the moment, because there has been enormous, there's been enormous criticism of the Conservative Party for racism, and lots of racists. We have a foreign secretary, for goodness sake, who mentioned that black people, he described black people as grinning pickaninnies with watermelon smiles, but there was no investigation into that. He apologised for that, Boris Johnson, 6 years after he said that in 2008 when he was running for a London mayor.
But
now, I absolutely agree that Labour must investigate all the claims against anti-Semitism. It's absolutely crucial, but I think it's really important to disentangle this from people who actually wish to undermine Jeremy Corbyn's leadership within the party with what I think is the right to criticise the Israeli government against their Palestinian suppression of human rights and genuine incidents of anti-Semitism. Those three things must be disentangled.
It's one of the most fascinating conversations that are going on of our times at the moment, isn't it? The politics and how people are thinking about individuals within politics. There's the whole personality when we talk about Jeremy Corbyn, of how people have reacted to him. I think it will go on and on. I'm so pleased we had that conversation with you on the programme tonight. And yeah, you were talking about what Boris Johnson said. It was during a debate for the London mayoral contest. Conservative candidate said that particular wording you said. Thank you very much indeed for that. Do you know what? I'm always intrigued as well about how whenever we talk on this programme, you're always about to do, or you've just done, yet another talk